Depending on whether or not you're unk status like me, you may remember begging your parents to take you to Toys R Us after school so you could get a special handout Pokemon, or even having to get a special code from GameStop so you could get a mystery gift item. Typically, these Pokemon or items would allow you to traverse a whole new area or access an entirely small additional story on your Pokemon game. And while today's games have a similar kind of thing with the DLC, they just don't feel the same, do they? So, what happened to these events? What happened to the in-person distribution events? Well, I feel like we can look at the downfall of in-person distribution events in 3 different viewpoints, excluding the obvious, the DS is outdated hardware. Those being 1, in a logistic viewpoint, 2, from a monetary viewpoint, and 3, from a gameplay viewpoint. Let's start with the logistic view of things, and for the sake of the video, we'll look primarily at mystery gift Pokemon and items. If you've been around the Pokemon community for a long time, you know that a lot of the iconic distribution Pokemon came from the elusive distribution DS cartridges. These were handed out by the Pokémon Company for retailers such as Toys R Us and GameStop and a bunch of others that I'm unfamiliar with. After handing these out, they would usually set a date for an event to be rolled out, so the one that I think of the most is the Darkrai event, where you had to go to Toys R Us and connect to their Wi-Fi through your DS and receive the Moon Island Pass, I believe. I'll probably throw it up on the screen right here. But it would allow you to access a special house in Canalave City, I believe. Man, I am getting way too old to remember all these. It essentially let you go to his island and catch him there. But that's besides the point. The point is, these were handed out to a lot of different stores. Going off of statistics I gathered offline, a Reddit video I found, in the United States alone, there were 841 Toys R Us in May of 2009, which is right around the time the event Shaman for Pokemon Diamond and Pearl was released. So right there, assuming each store only got 1 cartridge, which I so highly doubt, there is at least 841 cartridges that had to be given out, not including other places like GameStop and the other places that I can't mention because I don't know them, that were running the event. As you can probably imagine, in the day and age of the internet's infancy, where it wasn't as clear cut and YouTube still kind of looked blocky, trying to keep track of these cartridges and the locations where they were and where they needed to be and what time they needed to be back and all of the in-between crap that I don't know about was probably a nightmare. And when you know it, because of that being a nightmare, some of the distribution cartridges are still out there for sale for an egregious amount of money. I like to imagine the people in charge of trying to keep track of these cartridges back in the day were like in a little office closet tucked away in the Nintendo Center. And the closet was on fire and everybody was scrambling around in the dark looking for a fire extinguisher, but there isn't one because it's a freaking supply closet. Because I assume most of these events were a dumpster fire, the Wi-Fi events and DLC started to become a little bit more of a priority, or something that Nintendo, I feel like, looked at more as the solution for these problems. It also completely would eliminate the possibility of the distribution cartridges being released to the wild for monetary gain. That wasn't at all profitable for Nintendo, which leads to the second way we can view why these events probably kind of faded away. Monetary gain, or lack thereof. This probably will be the shortest point because it's the least difficult to explain. The production of these cartridges cost money. Distributing these cartridges costs money. Getting them back costs money. Losing them costs money. Breaking them costs money. Owning them costs money. Getting them... Guess what? It's all gonna cost money. There's no spoiler alert. It's all gonna cost money. A company's primary goal is to typically make money. And while you can definitely argue that the Pokemon Company does not need any more money than what they already have, you can't say you'd handled things different. It was a lose-lose-lose for them to have kept doing these cartridges for any form of monetary gain because it was primarily just a net loss, albeit for our maximum entertainment. I don't think that these events brought in any new players. I think they just kept the ones who were still playing around while they got the next game ready for a release, which is a much better monetary plan. Keep the gamers gaming while the next game is on the burner. And I really think that's better done with DLC. Our third and final viewpoint of the death of in-person distributions is from a gameplay viewpoint. I feel like this is probably the most important element and is closely related to the monetary viewpoint. Back in games like Diamond and Pearl, certain areas of the map were locked so that they could be accessed later, i.e. getting the mystery gifts. The most obvious example of this I can give was the locked door for the Darkrai event in Canalave City. I remember as a kid going up to that door before the gift was announced and released and was mad that I didn't know how to open it. After the event it made sense, but why did I have to wait so long? I was such an impatient kid, and while the event was awesome, it kind of sucked having to just bide my time and wonder, what's behind the door? Scarlet and Violet's DLC eliminates adding things into the game that serve a later purpose. The DLC just adds the whole area right when it's released. There's no trying to guess how to get to the new area or action replaying, walking out of bounds to get to them early like I did, maybe. All you have to do now is just wait until the DLC comes out and then you go. And then you're there. Not to also mention, you don't have to physically go out anywhere to get the DLC. You can just get it over the internet. You could really see how the internet started to dominate these events in the later years of the DSi game's lifespan. A lot of the in-person mystery gift events started to fade out and become primarily Wi-Fi events, which were nice because you didn't have to beg mom and dad to drive you, but also cut the fun out of going into the stores and seeing all of the cool stuff that they had. Some could argue that the trip was part of the experience, and I would be an idiot to not talk about how great that part of the in-person events were. Some of my best days going through middle school were the ones where I'd go right to Toys R Us and GameStop after school so I could get my shiny Raikou or my Game Freak Jirachi or whatever else I have on my old cartridges. A lot of which I still have to this day. They're just locked away on a cartridge somewhere. And even into my high school years when I got back into Pokemon on the 3DS, they'd hand out those little mystery gift cards, the ones that had the scratch-off codes that you would get. I would drive to GameStop after high school with my buddies, and we would go in there together. And since we knew the local GameStop owner, one of my high school friends worked there, he would give us like 5 or 6 codes at a time. It was freaking awesome. It was always such a blast, and I cherish those memories more than I think I've ever realized until I am doing this video right now. While those days are truly long gone and I don't think we'll ever see them again, I can't help but hope and wish that someday they do return. I know if they did, I would be there every freaking time there was an event. I'd be there before work, after work, whenever I could be there, I would be there. But what do you think? Were the distribution events as awesome as they were made out to be? Or were the DLC packs just better? Did I miss anything? Am I stupid? Did I not make a video that you liked? Let me know in the comments below what you think. I've been Poet, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.